Hey there everyone, welcome back to the Dan Cave and welcome to part 4 of the Tamiya 1/12 scale Renault RE20 video build series. So, it's been a little bit of a gap since part 3. Work, holidays, stuff has basically meant there's been a slowdown for probably 6-7 weeks at least here in the Dan Cave. I've not spent a weekend in my own home until this weekend, until right now, since sometime in March. So it's been quite a gap. So there's been very little has gone on the bench. Certainly in terms of video editing, anything like that. All of those things have really slowed down. But I'm back. Hopefully back doing more modelling. Hopefully back doing a little bit more video editing, and I can try and catch up with the things that I've not yet done. So I know there's monthly updates are due. Not done that for 2 months, so that's well overdue. And obviously the next part of the video build series, which is what we're here for. So yeah, so we got through first 3 parts. This is part 4. Part 4 is going to cover the engine. Pretty much engine, exhaust, turbo, some of the rads as well. So let's not pad this out any longer than necessary. But of course, if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like the video. Feel free to leave a comment. And yeah, enjoy the footage. Let's head on over, see how it goes, and see how I get on with this build. I'll be back at the end for some fun. See, so keen to get in there, I just cut myself off. But however, it's back to, well, the engine this time, and start with the usual place, getting all those parts off the sprue, using the Tamiya side cutters, well, Tamiya sprue cutters. Perfect tool for a job, and then a little bit of cleanup, and I'm using the D-Spay reciprocating sander this time. I do really like this as a tool. It's not aggressive. It's not overly aggressive, and for me it helps with that kind of precision sanding that sometimes needs to be done. So once all those sprue points are cleaned up, any seams are removed, it's on to gluing the main engine components together, and there's quite a few. But it quickly comes together, get that block assembled, and once that's all put together, it's over to the spray booth for some UMP black primer, which will be the perfect base for the metallic colour that's going to come next. So a couple of coats of black, build it up nice and slowly, and then dull aluminium is a metallic colour that is chosen. So the challenge with this engine block is there are parts of it that are painted blue, so I've gone with the aluminium first, and then masked up the bits that will remain in aluminium, and then painted the blue colour using Tamiya X3 plus UMP thinners. So a nice bright blue like this will go down fine over metallics. So the rocker covers are painted the same blue. The detail on them is picked out with a brush and some Vallejo Model Air silver paint. Now, there's a number of ways to do this. Some people will paint metallic first, maybe seal it, then put down the acrylic, blue, and then use a cotton bud to remove the blue paint. I've gone for a hand brushing approach. Nice therapeutic sit there for an hour or so, just filling in that paintwork. Most of it's going to be fairly invisible once the engine is put together anyway. So start by adding some of the extra components. Things like the hoses get added on. Got the various belts to be added. I've got the ignition wire as well, which is in yellow. Gives a nice contrast with the blue as well. Makes it stand out. And that's wired through the distributor cap, which is pre-drilled. Again, just checking the lengths are right. So essentially you only use 3 pieces for the main ignition, and they loop through like that, which makes them quite secure in the distributor cap. And then of course there'll be a central one as well, which will go back to the electrical system. So yeah, just make sure you get all the lengths matched up. And then for the center wire, you also need to tie a knot as well. But once they're all in place, a little bit of CA glue, and that distributor can be popped in place like so. So those parts can then be added to the main engine block, and then we can add the belt assemblies as well, and then begin the process of wiring all that up, including adding some of the clear tubing for the fuel hoses. So it's all straightforward as per the instructions. A little bit of trimming at the end just to make sure it's all nicely seated properly. And with some CA glue and a pair of tweezers, just pop it into the correct location. So once it's all assembled, I'm using a black panel line wash from MIG Ammo, just to flow into all the recessed areas, and not to make the engine look dirty, but just to try and enhance the recessed areas, make them pop a little bit more. Panel wash is great for doing that, because in scale you don't always capture the detail, so running a little bit of a wash through it just helps add that little bit more level of depth to the metallic and the engine parts. And of course, once you're done, just wipe everything off with some Sansador, some odorless mineral spirits, and a cotton bud. Now, plenty of other engine parts have been primed and painted. These are parts for the turbo system. Each bank of the engine has its own turbo system attached to each side of the exhaust system, the header system. These are painted body colour and then masked up with the metallic colours then added. Radiator housings have also been primed and painted, and rear bulkhead of the engine has also been primed and painted, and the engine can now be mounted to it. So there's plenty of hosing and pipework also to go onto the engine at this stage. So with the cooling system, it's getting the right sides lined up. Make sure all those locating pins line up as well. Now this is where things went a little bit wrong. So I had thought I'd separated the headers left and right correctly. Once I started to look at putting them on the engine, nothing really lined up particularly well. So that's one side has been added. And as I go to add the 3-into-1 into the turbo system, I realised that these are not in the right place. The orientation is not correct. This is not going to fit properly. So I try a few different configurations of this to see what's gone wrong. I wouldn't have thought that the Tamiya kit would have had any issues. So instead I go back to an alternate plan. So I assemble the turbo firstly. So that will give me some orientation for these parts. And then I try again with the original parts. Again, assuming I've got the orientation of the turbos correctly, it should be a case of just popping these into place. And once again, it looks like they don't quite fit. So I decide to replace them. So I'm using some thick solder wire, which is approximately the same diameter as the original kit parts, trimming it to length and then bending it. And then that will give me something a little bit more easy to manipulate, so I can bend things into the right place. So I'm assuming that the turbos are in the correct location. I'll give you a slight hint, they're probably not, and that will pop up later in the build. But however, I've obviously lost track of the correct header parts. They're not in the right location, not oriented correctly, so I'm just making my own instead. and just making sure that those parts fit from the outlet of the engine into the 3-in-1 section, which goes into the turbo. As you can see, lining that up, I'm reasonably happy with it. A little bit of tweaking, but much easier to manipulate than trying to fit those plastic parts. Or at least that's where my head is at the moment, more importantly. And then I will drill and add some locating pins as well. And that'll make all those parts just a little bit easier to fit. Now, they are of course fitted using some CA glue. In fact, copious amounts going onto the 3-in-1 parts. And there you go, we've got one side done. It's not perfect, but it'll do. And then with the other side done, there's a little bit of inevitable touch-up and just to cover up areas where some CA glue is left. Some marks. But otherwise, I'm happy enough with how that's gone together in the end. So this can now all be attached to the rear of the chassis. And then there's some additional pipe work to connect the radiator systems together as well. And as you can imagine, there'll be a few hoses, etc. as well. So those can be manipulated into place. And all in all, the engine is now fully attached, and that is the end of this part of the build series. So it'll be back to me for my final thoughts. So there we have it. There is part 4 completed. So as you can see, engine itself went together pretty all right. The wiring and the tubing that came in the kit was spot on, did the job. Things went a little bit astray on the headers from the engine. That just didn't go my way. Now, it's Tamiya kit, so the kit parts should be fine. Somewhere along the way, I've obviously mixed up the parts, not kept them correctly left hand and right hand, not noted down which part goes where. That kind of led me to kind of think, oh, these don't fit very well. Essentially chucked them to one side, made my own at a solder. They kind of work. I think some of those issues will come back to haunt me at the end of the build. But however, that's, you know, that's done and dusted. There's not much I can do about that now. But it went together as well as I could, seemingly. Although, you know, lesson learned, pay more attention to those exhaust parts. I think the best way to approach it would have been to actually fully assemble them first, basically on the engine, put them together, dry fit, you know, get each part off, glue them together, then de-seam, then paint and do all that kind of stuff. I think that would have meant less chance of mixing up left and right, or cylinder 1, 3, whatever, you know, whatever way around of mixing them up. That led me to have to manufacture my own. But nonetheless, really happy with the progress. I think the engine looks spot on. It's mounted to the back of the chassis now. Next part's going to focus on probably the gearbox, rear brakes, and then we'll probably into a final part which will do the final assembly of the kit, and that will hopefully bring an end to this video series. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to like the video, feel free to leave a comment, and I'll see you all very, very soon in another video from the Dank Cave. So bye bye for now.